Bellissima Italia, or beautiful Italy to me and you. A country so stylish it carved itself into the shape of a boot to stand out and be cool, where life expectancy is long, tempers are short, and culture is everywhere. But with over 1,500 lakes, a warm Mediterranean climate, copious amounts of high Renaissance art, and more heritage sites than anywhere else in the world, sometimes they just need a break. So when the Italians decide to leave home, how on earth do you live up to their standard of a great experience? Let's find out as we take a deep dive into the mind of the Italian tourist. If you're unfamiliar with a beautiful Italian language, you soon won't be. To appease their tourists, Italians in major cities are forced to learn English. This created a general disgust of the English language, and Italian is much preferred everywhere else. If an Italian arriving in your lobby does speak English, they've probably silently repressed their knowledge of it. Luckily, Italian is easy to learn, as half the language is non-verbal. Try to express a thought with no words, just using your hands and arms. If you're shaking and waving them wildly, congratulations, you've just learned Italian! The older generation of Italy are the keenest users of Italian Sign Language. The younger an Italian, the more likely they are to know basic English. But forget about youthful exuberance coming to your rescue. Italy's life expectancy is the highest in Europe, and the average age sits at around 46. How do they go on so long? Espresso! Italians consume 14 billion espressos every year. On average, that's 7 or 8 a day. And they're not going to want to go cold turkey when they arrive on your shore. Stock up on coffee when you have Italians on the way, and getting it right is crucial. Never serve a bad coffee to an Italian. You may as well yell insults at him and his family through a loudspeaker across the breakfast room. You'll get the same result and save on coffee beans. If you can deliver a great coffee, it'll bring an honest gratitude from your Italian that'll make you feel like you're being adopted. But this is easier said than done. A compliment from an Italian about your coffee is as rare as a DM from the Pope about good behavior. On the subject of food and drink, heed our warning. Unless you're planning to serve dinner at 11 p.m, you're going to see more hand waving. Expect your Italians to be shocked at a 7 to 8 p.m. dinner service and appalled at not being able to eat right before midnight. For breakfast, Italians prefer a small portion of sugar. For dinner, they need large portions of carbohydrates. The average Italian eats 25 kilos of pasta a year and a half pound of bread per day. They're also very superstitious. When bringing bread to an Italian, never place it upside down on the table. They believe it's an insult to Jesus and summons a demon called Malocchio, the evil eye. Although the deranged waiter who is unsure which way bread stands is probably the biggest danger in the room, you won't know enough hand waves to communicate this effectively. So if it happens, fetch a bowl of water and olive oil, so your Italian can make the sign of the cross. Or bring a cat to the table and have it sneeze. That's another superstition. Italy is a nation of cat lovers. In fact, an Italian cat in 2011 inherited 10 million euros from its owner, becoming the third richest animal in the world. So if there is even a 1% chance a cat will pass across your dining area, it pays to keep an emergency saucer of milk on hand. You'll impress the Italians and, depending on the cat, might receive a generous tip. The 3 active volcanoes of Italy, Mounts Etna, Vesuvius and Stromboli, are the second loudest and most explosive feature of the country, after its people. The people of Italy range all the way from warm and welcoming, but terrifying when annoyed, to cold and mumbling, and terrifying when annoyed. The temper of an Italian is like the Balrog in Lord of the Rings. You just don't want to wake it up. If you do, there's not a free dinner in the world that'll settle it down. You're gonna need to go in hard with the free upgrades to get past this beast. And it's not going to be a quiet experience. The volume knob on every Italian is cranked up to 11, then removed at the factory. Italian Sign Language was developed so they could shout at the deaf, too. They're so loud that Pavarotti is only considered an opera singer outside of Italy. In 1955, he entered a cafe in Wales for lunch. When he complained his sausages were cold, the locals thought his loud Italian tones were an operatic masterpiece and pushed him onto a stage. Thinking he was being directed to the manager, he continued to air his complaint, and it's been a vicious cycle ever since. To this day, he's confused why large crowds gather to listen and why he gets raucous applause instead of an answer. Contrary to popular belief, the whole mafia thing is just a stereotype. There's very little evidence they ever existed in any form, ever. The whole thing was made up by Hollywood to help sell movies. To associate Italy with the mafia is basically like associating America with cartoon mice. It's just a cultural legend, and I say this of my own free will, whilst I look forward to starting my car later. Italians are easily bored. You'll need some local activities to keep any Italians engaged, and they usually aren't fussy. Music, dancing, restaurants, any of these are enough. But being naturally stylish, wellness facilities are the finest thing for a crowd of Italians. If there's a spa, jacuzzi or sauna nearby, they're sure to head in that direction to top up the turn head factor. Even casinos are a safe bet, as like I said freely just now, the whole mafia thing is pure fiction with no basis in reality. So how to avoid the fire and have Italians delighted with their experience every time? Italy is a cultural superpower, which has produced and continues to produce people of passion, virtue and talent. There's no greater feeling than the love of an Italian, and here's the best way to demonstrate that the feeling is mutual. Number 1. Learn the language. Not saying an intensive course is necessary, but a few basics will go a heck of a long way. The last thing you want when trying to make people feel at home is a language barrier. Throwing in the odd phrase at greeting or during service is certain to have the opposite effect and create a warmth right from the outset. Number 2. Get food and drink right. Coffee and portion sizes are the big ones here, unless you're willing to push dinner back by a couple of hours. But we all know how the kitchen staff will feel about that. There is nothing that will give an Italian a better experience than a holiday espresso worth complimenting. It might take some effort, but the return is well worth the investment. As for portions, a croissant with jam or small sweet treat is enough for breakfast. Keep it continental until dinner, and wow them with a huge feast to fill them up till next time. Number 3. Respect the superstition. We all have them, and it's widely reported that Italy and its people are really into theirs. Bread goes the right way up, cat sneezes are good, and the demon Malocchio is more about bad energy than a real-life monster, so go about your business with kindness and care, and you'll do just fine. Number 4. Keep them well. Italy is a huge destination for tourists, and their people deserve the same treatment as their guests. Make sure they are aware of the activities surrounding you and don't be afraid to point them toward the swish stuff. Italians are renowned for turning heads wherever they go, and if there's a great wellness center nearby, it'd be a sin to let it go to waste. Now you know everything you need to guide an Italian tourist into the finest experience possible. Free upgrade never lets an unhappy guest leave. For more tips on how to handle cultural differences and keep away from accidentally offending your patrons, subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified when we've got something else for you.